if a guy comes at it as like, I'm going to do these things and then has his boundaries, showing that he's already doing them because that's the principle he lives by, it's more believable that this is the principle for a relationship with him. Because if he's living it and he's like, this is the relationship that I, want to be in, this is what I expect from a relationship that I'm in.
Right.
He's proving that by already doing those things. Most people today aren't going to just believe somebody's words. They're going to believe their actions.
Right.
Because people can say whatever they want till they're blue in the face, but they have to prove that they're backing that up. And if you do something like you just said, then you're proving that, one, you're willing to stop doing something even though you can handle it to lead the relationship in a better, healthier place.
If it was a different guy, right, and he flat out even told her, hey, I don't like you drinking that much, she would have probably had a different reaction and had more respect for him and not broke up with him than the guy lightly saying, oh, be careful. Because when the guy says, oh, be careful, it sends off a red flag 100%. But men get tripped up in this because they're too insecure and they're afraid of losing the girl and they're afraid of rocking the boat, right? And so they're trying to actually so hard to not be controlling that they actually do come across as controlling, and women run away from that. Whereas if they were more secure and they're like, look, I'm a high value man, I'm a good guy, I don't treat people wrong, and I have enough respect for myself that these are the things that I think are important in a relationship and that are important in my life, and I'm setting these boundaries, then a woman is going to have a lot more. She might not always agree with the guy, but she's going to definitely have respect for him, and she's going to make the choice. Do I want to give up some of the things that maybe she doesn't even agree with? Maybe she's like, it's fine. I know when I go out with my friends that we're not hitting on guys, or like nothing's going to happen. But she's like, because it makes him uncomfortable, and I value this
and she
guy.
Cares about him. Yeah,
I'm going to give that up and instead do this thing. And it's her choice, as opposed to being forced into it or emotionally manipulated into it, where it's like, if you don't do this, I'm going to be mad at you. It's like, no, it's like, you can do what you want. However, based on what you do, I'm going to make choices whether I want to be in this relationship. I'm not going to threaten you and say, if you do this, I'm going to give you emotional consequences and make you feel bad about yourself and harass you. Instead, it just may be something that is going to be a deal breaker for me, and I might not have to, no hard feelings, but it's not the thing for me. And that's the difference. I mean, hopefully I've made it really clear between because it gets confused so much.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
But boundaries are really the key. And I know I misspoke earlier.
But it's hard.
Controlled you.
Because it's hard.
But that's why phrasing is very important. And that's why I mentioned too that if a guy comes at it as like, I'm going to do these things and then has his boundaries, showing that he's already doing them because that's the principle he lives by, it's more believable that this is the principle for a relationship with him. Does that make sense?
Right, exactly.
Because if he's living it, and he's like, this is the relationship that I, want to be in. This is what I expect from a relationship that I'm in.
Right.
He's proving that by already doing those things.
Right. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? It's like, because it might also be a situation where, look, as a man, maybe you can handle your alcohol and you don't go crazy and do like, you can get drunk and you're actually even fine. Like you're not, you're not doing stupid shit. But maybe you're dating a woman where when she has a few drinks, she's like doing all kinds of stuff and like she gets out of control. And so maybe then you say, well, I could handle it, but I'm not gonna tell her she can't drink. I'm gonna just stop drinking so that she stops drinking, right? Even though I can handle it and she can't, right? You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like what your point before is, don't have those
expectations hypocritical of somebody and you not be doing the same.
Even if you could do it and it wouldn't be a problem for you. You know what I mean? Because you're showing by example that I'm willing to make a sacrifice in order to make the relationship better.
And that's what a man has to do to be a leader and an authority in a relationship. Like he can't just be like, I'm the leader, I'm the authority.
Right.
Like you have to prove it. Like especially most people today aren't going to just believe somebody's words. They're going to believe their actions.
Right.
Because people can say whatever they want till they're blue in the face, but they have to prove that they're backing that up. And if you do something like you just said, then you're proving that, one, you're willing to stop doing something even though you can handle it to lead the relationship in a better, healthier place.
Yeah, if I'm going to tell someone to do 10 push-ups, I'm going to do 100 push-ups. Because then they can't, you see what I'm saying? Then they can't say anything against you.
Right.
But if I say go do 10 push-ups and they're like, are you going to do it? No, I don't need to. I don't need to prove anything.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, it's really hard to, but if you do 100, then it's really hard for them to say, oh, I'm not going to do 10. Right. So, yeah. But it comes from that place of security versus insecurity. And women can sense it off of a guy. And if a guy's coming across as insecure, man, it's so weird because in that scenario, if it was a different guy, right, and he flat out even told her, hey, I don't like you drinking that much, right? She would have probably had a different reaction and had more respect for him and not broke up with him than the guy lightly saying, oh, be careful. Because when the guy says, oh, be careful, it sends off a red flag.
But see, I don't like you drinking that much is even kind of like borderline.
It's like, but you're saying, I don't like it, right? It's not saying don't do it.
Yeah,
it's saying,
but
I
some
don't
of
like
the guys who are controlling kind of start with things like that. And I get what you're saying is like, you're not saying like, don't do that.
Right.
But I think that's why you probably have to say a little bit more than just like, I don't like that.
I mean, the advice I give guys is always to start with, I don't like this, I like this. Because I'll tell you why. Because that should be the strongest rebuke that you ever have to give as a man is just your disapproval of I don't like or I don't like or I do like. Because a woman should want to please you as a man. She should not want to do things that displease you.
So if a woman says, I don't like something that a man's doing, should he take that into consideration just as much? Because like we've been talking about the hypocritical thing.
He should take it into consideration, but also the dynamic is different between the masculine and the feminine, right? Again.
But what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that
in this instance, like, so does that mean that he doesn't necessarily have to do it? If she was like, I don't like you drinking that much, what would you say to the guy? Like, how should a guy respond?
How should a guy respond if a woman says, I don't like you drinking that much?
Yeah, because I can understand, and I think where you're coming from is if she's like, I don't think we should do this, but you think as a man and for the whole family and whatever, it'd be more beneficial. But I'm talking about like if the tables were completely turned
right.
And she was like, I don't like you drinking that much. I don't like how you behave towards me when you drink this much. What would you say? He should
fix that situation, right? So whatever it takes for him to fix that situation, right? She's given her input on the thing. And now it's your responsibility as a man to figure out how do you solve this problem, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to cut back the drinking? Sure. That could be one solution. Are you going to cut back the behavior? That could be another solution, right?
So is that something that you would expect from her too, or you expect her to just stop drinking?
I expect in that case that it's going to show whether this woman actually cares about you at all, right? Because it's different. Again, the dynamic is different in the sense that if a woman doesn't care about a guy, doesn't look up to a guy and respect the kind of things that are important to him or not, then she really doesn't like the guy, right? Whereas it's not exactly the same when you flip it, right? So because a woman that really likes a guy will really care whether or not she's doing things that he doesn't like or not.
But a man doesn't?
It's not to the same degree. Not to the same degree.
But what if she has a boundary and then she leaves you?
That's fine. And that's appropriate, right? If she has a boundary, she sets a boundary, she leaves because you're violating that boundary. That's a choice that she's making, that she doesn't want to be with the guy that does this thing.
Right.
That's fair.
And I hear what you're saying, but I think there should be at least, maybe it's not like respect, because
right.
I know men value respect very highly and women want to be loved. But I think, like we mentioned in that episode about love and respect, that there is respect in love and there is love in respect.
Yeah.
And I think, though, that even though a man might be the one to make the decision at the end of the day and is the authority and whatnot, I do think there has to be the same amount of like respect and love in that mixture for both people. Because I don't think that it's okay. like I mentioned, I think that it's okay for a man to be like, okay, I hear you, but we're going to do this and explain why he chose a different way.
Right.
But I don't think it's fair for a guy to just decide what he wants to do, but expect a woman to like change all the things, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
I think there still has to be the same level of showing somebody you care about them, which I think is what you're mainly suggesting here, is that seeing that the woman cares about you as a man. I think there still has to be that level from the man. And I'm not saying he has to do it in the exact way as the woman, but I do think that it has to be on the same playing field, because I feel like you have to admire each other and care about each other to the same level, or there'll always be a balance that feels off in your relationship.
Better than perfect, we stay.